Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to Jamie Photography. So in this video, we're going to look at a couple of things. We're going to do a day tonight, so I haven't done one for a little while, so I'm happy to get back into doing a bit of day tonight. But also, we're going to look at the new remove tool that's now available in Photoshop Beta, and I will talk you through how that works. But we're going to take this shot here. I shot this in Pump Court in London. It's the sort of legal and economic region of London, the old legal area. It dates back to the late 1700s, early 1800s. A number of films were actually filmed here, including Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation with Tom Cruise, and also some of the Harry Potter movies were filmed around this area. There are a number of courts in this area, so it's a fascinating place to visit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this image and we're going to turn it into this. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So join me. Let's have some fun. So let's get started. So this is a shot of Pump Court, as I've explained, and what we're going to do is we're going to firstly try to address the perspective, something that I always start with, perspective, and then crop to suit. So as you can see, and just have a look here, we had a 17mm lens, so there's quite a bit of distortion. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to transform. There we go, and we're going to click auto, see if that works. That's not too bad, but it is leaning out just a little bit there. So I'm going to go to guided. I'm going to take this gutter downpipe here to the bottom using the magnifying square, pick a point on there and then drop that down to there. So that doesn't look too bad. I want to lean it in slightly so it's not perfectly vertical. So I'm just going to move that out just a little bit just to see if we can just get it moving in just ever so slightly, maybe a little bit more. There we go. So it feels like we're actually in the area. So so I'm happy with that. I might just put a cross there just to make sure that's level as well. Yeah, just find the right level. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to hit return. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to go to the crop tool next, and I'm just going to bring this down. Now, you need to find where it works. You can't sort of cut in a window halfway down. You could look at this window here and decide that you could come to the top of that, but then you get an awkward cut of this window here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up so it actually cuts that window exactly in half. So it's about there. So this side is slightly lower than that side, but that's fine. I'm just going to bring this into the edge of those windows there and do the same on this side. So that puts the lamppost square in the middle. Hit return, and that's a crop that I think we can work with. Now, one of the things we're going to do in this video is look at the remove tool in Photoshop. And so what we're going to do is send this over to Photoshop. But just before I do, I'm just going to bring down the highlights. I'm going to open up the shadows, probably all the way. Yeah, add a little bit of contrast into that shot. That's fine. And then we're ready to send it over to Photoshop. Now, the remove tool is currently only available in the beta version of Photoshop. So to obtain that, go to your little Adobe Cloud icon that you have, and in the apps selection at the top, you will find, because normally you're in all apps and you'll see your apps like this, but go down to beta apps, you'll see that they're here, and then you can find Photoshop Beta, and it will say download, install. You can click on that and install that. Now, once you've done that, just get rid of that. We'll go back to Lightroom. Once you've done that, you do need to tell Lightroom that that's the Photoshop that you want to use. And to do that, you go into Lightroom settings, you go to external editing. You can see here external editing, and then in the Photoshop version you select the beta. once it's downloaded. You must install it first, and then you can select the beta. Okay, and that means that when we then right click edit in, we get edit in Adobe Photoshop beta, and then we can go into there. So pause the video if you haven't done all that and do that, and then you can carry on from here. So I'm now going to send this over to Photoshop beta. Now the beta versions do for some reason take a little bit longer to load when you click on them to move over there, whereas normally Photoshop would open in just a few seconds. So we just have to give it a moment to load. Now, whilst we're waiting, the remove tool is primarily the main change for this this beta version, and it should be with us shortly on the main version of Photoshop. Fingers crossed. So let's have a look. So here we go. We're in Adobe Photoshop beta. Now, if you go to your spot healing brush J, you'll have, if you right click, you'll have a number of additional tools which you're probably already used to: the healing brush tool, the patch tool, which is always very good, and the content aware move tool. But the new tool is the remove tool. You'll see it here, and if you select that, you get yourself a brush. Now, what this does is it uses AI to actually look at the surroundings and remove the item that you select. So let's take this this waste rubbish bin here, this litter bin, and we take a brush reasonable size, and we need a little bit of overlap. So we're going to start like that, and you literally just hold your mouse down and paint round it. Try not to go onto the grate there, and then let go, and it will process and it will remove it. Look at that, absolute magic. I'm going to zoom in a bit more over here. Somebody's left a bag or something over here. So make the brush smaller by using the square bracket keys, which are to the left of the return key, and I'm just going to paint the bit that I want to remove. Watch we don't go over the step, so I'm just going to come in there, up there, and then make sure you fill it all in. Don't let go of the mouse until you've got everything covered in. And look at that, so quickly it's put the edge of the window in. It's done a cracking job there. These door entry systems here, I'm not particularly a big fan of these things. That I'm just going to pull down through there like that, and it calculates what needs to be done. Isn't that absolutely amazing, I have to say. So there's a couple of black marks here. I'm just going to take those out as well, and some drain covers, just taking those out. It literally works it through. There's a big drain here, so slightly bigger brush, just paint over that. There we go, and it's gone like magic. Here's another one. So just going to paint over that as well, and a little bit of pipe on the wall. Now these fans really annoy me, these cheap looking fans in the window. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to go round, highlight them, and isn't it amazing how it calculates the edge of the window. It knows it's there. Same here, just take that fan out as well. There we go, perfect. And I think there's one here as well, big one here. So there's quite a bit of chromatic aberration on this this shot. You can see the greens and the magentas around the edges here on the contrast, and that's due to, it was a Canon lens, an L lens 17-40 that I had, and it does suffer from chromatic aberration, but we can correct that when we go back into Lightroom. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just going to zoom back out a little bit now, and oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'm just going to take out these little marks here. There's some more drain covers there. Got rid of those. Big drain here. There we go. It's just calculating the removal of that. There we go. And over here, I'm never too happy with these metal edges to these drain covers as well. So I tell you what, this tool is absolute magic. Can you see? I'm just drawing round and it even keeps that line in the center. Absolutely astounding. It just knows what it's dealing with. So very impressed, very impressed. So a few more here. Just going to do these as well. Take those out. That one didn't do so good there. There we go. Almost there. Just take out these last couple of metal brackets. I'll take out that white chewing gum mark there as well. Very good. Right. Anything over here? One on the edge there. Some more door entry systems here. So I'm just going to paint over those. Again, it does a great job at removing the whole label on the wall there. There's a couple of breathing bricks here, these sort of air bricks, and I just want to get rid of those as well. So how quick is that? Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. So so have a play with the removal tool. It is very impressive. Look, take this door for example over here. Take a small brush, and I just want to take this sort of bright white label that's on the door, just paint that out roughly. There we go, it's sorted out. There's a no smoking sign on the door there. We can take that out, and there's a little white mark there, and some more door entry systems. And bear in mind, we're zoomed right in at the moment, so there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Just going to take that edge of that window up there out because it's just a little bit distracting. There we go, and the same on this one here. Right, I'm going to send this back into Lightroom. I'm going to do that by File, Close, and then Save. And then we'll go back into Lightroom. And there you go. It's brought back in. Very well done. That tool is very impressive. You see how quickly I worked through with that is amazing. So what we're going to do now is turn this into a day to night. So my normal process for doing this is to drop the exposure back by around about two stops. I might even go just a little bit further, maybe 2.5 stops here. I'm going to bring down the highlights a bit further, just to dull that right down. And what I'm going to do is go to masks. I'm going to take a linear gradient, and I'm going to bring a linear gradient in from the right hand side, because you can see this sunlight up here is much brighter, and I'm going to darken that just a bit further as well. See, it's also quite bright here, so going to create a new mask, take a radial gradient and just pop it in this area over here, just to darken that down as well, just slightly, not too much, just take a little bit out. So once everything is darkened down, we can then relight the scene. So I think I'm going to darken the sky just a little bit more. So create a new mask, select sky, and then once the sky is selected, I'm just going to take that down a little bit more as well. So add some contrast in there. So it's all a little bit darker. That's good. Now let's start the day to night process. So let's create a new mask, a radial gradient, and we're going to take a radial gradient that's just slightly larger than this lantern in the center here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what we're doing. As you can see, it just take it a little bit larger, and then we take the exposure and put it to maximum. We add a little bit of temperature just to bring the color into that, as though it's a tungsten lamp, and always add a little bit of magenta to offset the green hue that you get from adding temp. So now we're going to take this radial gradient, we're going to subtract a brush, okay, and that brush is going to have 0 feather and 100% flow. So we have effectively a negative brush. So when we paint on here, we will remove, just going to turn off the auto mask, we will remove the effectively the radial gradient. As you can see there, I'm just sort of washing it away. And so what we do is we need to take away the light that's not coming from the light fitting here. So I'm just going to go in there and click, and then I'm going to go up and shift click again. So I've taken a line from there, and I'm going to do the same across the top. Click, hold down shift, and click again. So we're going across the top. I'm not going to go right in on the edge of this one because there is a pane of glass showing there. So I'm going to click on the edge there, go down to the bottom and click there, and the same here. I'm just going to go through these areas and just take out, there's a light would come out the bottom there. I'm going to take the brush a little bit smaller, the size of this little frame here that you can see, and I'm going to click once at the top, click once at the bottom using the shift, just to take that and darken it down a little bit more. I'm going to take the brush bigger again, and I'm just going to go around the outside and take away the rest of the radial gradient. So if you hover over mask, you can see what remains. So you can see I just needed a little bit tidying up at the top there, and I need a cross piece down the bottom here. So we'll take back to a small brush. There we go. And I'm just going to cut down through there, and I'm going to cut across here. So click, shift, click. I've got across there, and I'm just going to take this one down from the top. Shift, click, shift there. So let's have a look at that again. That looks better, just a little bit there. There we go. That looks pretty good. So you might think, well, that doesn't really look like a lantern, does it? Being illuminated, it doesn't look quite right. The key here is we need to illuminate the center of the lamp, so where the bulb would be. So what we do is we click on that radial gradient we had before. We right click and we duplicate the mask. So we've now got two masks on top of each other, but because we duplicated the mask, not the radial gradient, we managed to keep all of the subtraction brush that we had in there. Now we click on that top one, and the real key here is to make it smaller. I'm just going to rotate it slightly so it is at the same angle. There we go. And I'm just going to bring that in the center like that. Right, so when I zoom out now, and you have a look at that, so it's just accept those masks for now. There we go. You can see that it looks more like a lamp. Now the lamp is illuminated, we do need to put some light on the ground below. So I'm going to go back into masks. I'm going to create a new mask. I'm going to go to radial gradient, and I'm going to pull a radial gradient across. Now the important thing is, when you do a radial gradient, the center of this radial gradient needs to be at the bottom of the column here, and the pool of light that will come from this lamp is roughly the same front to back as it is left to right. But because we have the perspective, we have to work out how much of a spread of light we're going to get front to back that's equal in distance from left to right. Now that roughly looks right for me. So if I bring up the exposure now and start to add light into that area, you'll see how that comes in and lights that area underneath there. Going to add a little bit of contrast to that. Now I do need to add a little bit of temp, and I need plenty of magenta here just to offset that color so that it looks equal from above. I'm just going to rotate that slightly. There we go, and I'm just going to pull it out a little bit more. Now, the real key to light is that when you look at light, it has huge clarity, huge contrast. So I've added a little bit of contrast to this pool of light, but the real key is to go down and add in some clarity. Watch these paving slabs, and what will happen is, let me make that a little bit bigger. Watch these paving slabs, and when I add the clarity to them, you ready? You see that? Really brings out the detail there. In fact, I'm just going to back off the brightness just a little bit. Now, there are 3 other lanterns in this court area. You can't see them because they're behind this one, but we need to put a pool of light back there as well. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to duplicate the mask, and I'm going to put that halfway down. But of course, I need to make it proportionally smaller so it lights up a similar area. But the really important thing is we need to back the brightness off, because it's further away. Then the amount of light halves with the distance. So what we're going to do is just back that off a little bit more, So, and get the balance just right. I'm just going to turn that slightly as well, so that's in the right place there. You can see I've just dropped that brightness back just a little bit. And I'm just going to make it a little bit more in the area. There we go. And then there's one more that will be right towards the back where the other light fitting is. So right click, duplicate mask again, send that down to the end one, but of course we need to make it smaller again. There we go. A little smaller pool of light. And of course we need to make it less bright again. Do you notice that was the same brightness there? Did you see that? It was the same brightness as this one, but because it's further away, there's almost a sort of, I don't know, an optical illusion that makes it look brighter because it's further away. But yeah, it's the same brightness. So I'm just going to dim that down still further. There we go. So if you've ever watched the Tom Cruise film Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, well, the bad guy gets sorted out at the end of the film, and it's under these arches here, actually. So it's quite interesting. And not far through those arches are the main halls that were used to effectively give the effect for the Harry Potter movies. Also, the main hall in Harry Potter where they eat their dinner and all the magical things go along. That's literally 200 yards further around there. So it's an interesting place in London to go and visit. So let me just move this one a bit further forward. There we go. So we've got the light coming from the light fittings. I need a little bit of light on top of the tree here, so I can right click and duplicate the mask again, and I can take that up on top of the trees just like that. And it looks like the light from the light fitting is lighting the top of the trees. I'm going to put in quite a bit more contrast into there. You'll see why. It gives you quite a nice effect, as though the light is literally hitting the top of the tree. And, you know, I might even just take that down a little bit further. That works very well. And I'm just going to from this particular mask, I'm just going to subtract a brush. But this time I'm going to put feather at 100% and the flow quite low, about 40. I just want to take a bigger brush here. I just want to take away any extra light that's right out here. I just want to take that away. That's just right out there. So it's literally just on that tree. So it gives you a pretty good effect. That works quite well. Actually, that works very well. So next step is to illuminate some of these windows. That's always a challenge. So we're going to pick one of these windows. I think we'll pick this one here. We're going to create a new mask, a radial gradient, and we're going to put a radial gradient over this window, as you see like this. Now, the really important thing about lighting windows is you must make sure that the center of the radial gradient is actually where the light source will be. And the light source in this room is likely to be on the ceiling, probably somewhere about there, right? So you put your radial gradient in like that. You take your exposure to 100%, as we've done here. And then what we then do is we subtract the remainder away. So I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to go over and have a look at this window, as you can see. But we need to subtract away from here. So I'm going to subtract a brush. I'm going to go back to feather now. This time I'm going to go about 10%, just a little bit of feather, because we're going around the window. But flow will still be at 100% because it's a minus. So we go to the top, we overlap just slightly, we click, and then we shift click again down the bottom. There we go. And just move this down by holding the space bar. And do the same here, just overhang slightly, click, shift, click. And we work our way around this window. So we're taking away the radial gradient. I don't want to go on top of those plants there because we want to illuminate those. But I'm just going to do that. There we go. And we'll come back to these. I think what I'll do here is just going to carry round with the bigger brush just around the bottom here, and make sure we take away that. Just going to go around that plant for now. There we go. So I'm just going to zoom out. I'm just going to take the rest of it away. So a big brush now because we've been round the window. Click, click, shift click just to get those straight lines in place. Let's go over that plant. There we go. There's a bit left at the top there. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in on this window, and we're going to add in the shadow side of this as well. So I'm going to take go back to the brush. We're on the brush. I'm going to take a small brush, and I'm just going to go along the areas to just darken out some of these contrasty areas. So I'm still at 100%. I'm going to cut a smaller brush still. I'm just going to go along the top of these window frames like this, and across here, and then same below there, just on those window frames, just going click, shift, click to get the straight line. Same across here, click, shift, click. Same here as well. That's it. And I'm just going to come down this little area here, just darken that out, and I'm going to do the same on this one down here, just to take that line there. Yeah, we start to vary the amount of flow. So I'm going to bring that back to 50% now. And what we got to do is build up gradients of light. Okay, so this area here, for example, will be darker towards the top, and maybe slightly darker as we've got there to the bottom. But in the middle, there'll be some sort of reflective light. So I'm going to take a slightly bigger brush. I'm going to overlap what we've already done, and I'm going to shift, click, shift like this. And I'm just going to pop that through and then bring down the edge here as well. So what we're doing is effectively adding layers of light, the contrast, if you like, between the brightness and the not so bright. Take a smaller brush there. Just going to run along this top edge of this window where we've got that white line like that. And the same here. Look, as we go up through these window here, you can see that we're just bringing those in. So we're just softening that off. So we're getting some light coming through. And I'll do the same here. Slightly bigger brush to go across here. There we go. And then we just do those bottom windows as well. So because you did the first strikes at 100%, you can't make them any darker. But of course, this is at 50%. So I'm going to take a bigger brush now and just do this, the whole one down here. And because we've already done it once, what we'll get is almost like a contrast between the two. Do you see that? Same across there. So you get just sort of different values, different brightnesses as you come in. There we go. So a little bit more there, just a small one, just to run along that edge there. So that's looking pretty good, but we do need to cast some shadows. So what we're going to do is we're just going to increase that flow to 75. We're going to take a small here. Now, if that's the light source up there where the center of the radial gradient is, then we need to draw a line between that point and where the shadow starts, right? So we click there, draw that line, and click again, right? Do you see that's how you create the line? I'm not going to do it as thick as that. I'm going to Command Z that. I'm just going to bring some feather in now, 50% feather. I'm going to bring that flow back to 60%. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm coming in on that line there. I'm drawing that line, and I'm coming away. There we go. Just a nice little shadow. This shadow is bigger because this is a bigger piece of wood here, but now look at the angle. It's coming down this way, so I will bring the angle in like that. You see, it's coming down there, and then back to a smaller one, and we will do the same here. This time that's going to come down more of an angle, so you're getting the reflections, sorry, the shadows from the window frames coming out onto this area here. I'm just going to darken that down a bit more there. That's it. And that is how you do a window. But one thing I like to do is I like to increase the light source. I want to get rid of that fan actually. Let me just jump over to the heal tool, and we'll go to content aware remove, and let's see if we can get rid of that fan. It's not as good in Lightroom as the new removal tool is. Perhaps I should have done that earlier, but let's try. There we go. Not bad. I'm just going to click those remaining white marks there. Pretty good. So we're going to go back into the mask. There's the mask we had previously. I'm going to right click on the mask there, duplicate it. So now we have a really bright one. But if we bring that back, like we did previously with the lamp, I'm just going to get to the bottom there, bring that up. What we can do is we can put the light bulb in the room pretty well, something like that. Maybe just back off the brightness just a little bit. There we go. So when I zoom out, you now have a room. It needs to be a little bit brighter, so we'll go back to mask 6 there. You can see there's still some areas there. I'm just going to take the rest of that out with the brush. There we go, over there. That flow up to 100 and through there. There we go. So I want to still make this previous brush, number 6, brighter still. So you can bring up the highlights, and you can also bring up the whites if you want to just increase it a little bit more. That works quite well. You can also up the shadows as well if you just want to make the room light just that little bit brighter. That works quite well. And of course, this window would cast some light down here. So creating a new radial gradient here, we can just take a little pull down here. We can just turn it slightly at an angle so it's coming out to match the window like that. We can bring up the exposure just to show that there's light coming out of that window. There we go. Adding a bit of contrast, and also, importantly, adding some clarity. Now, there would be a little bit of a shadow cast here. So in this mask, we want to subtract a brush. Okay, that brush we want to have 100% flow, 50% feather, and we're literally just going to take it out like that. So we've got this shadow effectively casting down. That looks pretty good. Going back into this window, so mask number 6 again, I'm just going to add a brush. I'm going to put quite low level flow, bit of feather in there, and I'm just going to zoom in, because what I'd like to do here is just brighten up those plants as though the light coming out would effectively just brighten them up a little bit more on the top there. There we go. And I might even throw a little bit of saturation in just to make that green pop. There we go. So let's do the same on the other side. Let's pick a window on this side. So I think we'll go with this window over here. We'll take a radial gradient, nice big one. We'll put the light where we think it's going to go, which is here. We're going to bring the exposure up to 100. Going to add a little bit of color into this one as well. I might add a little bit of color into number 6 as well. Just there we go. Look at that. But remember to add some magenta just to balance it off. That looks good. Okay, so back into mask number 8 here. Going to subtract a brush. Remember, flows at 100, feathers like 10%, something like that. And then we're just going to zoom in on this window. And we're going to do the same thing we did over the outside. We're going to click, shift, click, shift, click, shift, click, like that. And we're just going to come down here as well. Just take that out around this side. I'm going to leave the plants illuminated like we did on the other side, so that we can light those up with a bit more light. Make the brush a bit bigger. Take the rest of this radial gradient out. Goes up a little bit. There we go. Take that out. Just going to hover over just to see. There's a little bit over there, as you saw. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Just a little bit from there as well. Right. What we'll now do is we will do the framing as we did before. So just going to back the flow off just a little bit, because this one's not quite as sharp as the other one, and feather's okay. I'm going to bring that brush down. So it's a little tiny brush there. Click, shift click, click, shift click along these framings, just to get that sort of darker area. I'm just going to come along this edge here as well. There we go. Same on the bottom window. In fact, I'm just going to go across there as well. It's going to bring them in just to give contrast along these lines. That's already quite dark up there. Just going to do this one as well. So, oops, sorry, that was 2-finger click there. Click, shift, click, click, shift, click, and just bring one down there as well. Not bad. I think I'll just run one along this edge just to join these two up. And then what we'll do is we'll now do the contrast with the lower flow rates. So we're going to bring the flow back to 50, open the feather up a little bit, make the brush bigger. I'm just going to go across the top there a couple of times. So back once, move up a little bit, back twice. Same here, between those lines, make that brush a little bit bigger. Click at the top there, click at the bottom there, and then just go out to the outer edge there just to darken that down just a little bit. Same here, click, shift click, shift click, and I'm going to come across the top of that window. There we go. And just going to make that just a little bit darker in there. And then come across these framings with this slightly lower level of flow. I do get a lot of fun doing this, actually. I quite enjoy the sort of detail of it. It's great, and looking at how the light actually works in these different locations as well, I think is really a big part of the fun. I mean, take the time if you are out and about at night, just have a look at the way light comes out of windows, or the way that light comes from a lantern. It's interesting. It's not until you actually stand there and actually have a look and see what's going on that you'll actually think, wow, I didn't realize that the light moves. You know, it creates shadows, it casts things in different ways. So it's always worth having a good look around, and just really getting a clear picture of how light moves, and how the shadows are cast. So I'm just going to make sure we've got that highlighted and we've got the shadows open and maybe the whites up as well, just to get that to a brightness that we like. I'm going to right click and duplicate that mask and do as we did last time. Click on that, and then we're going to put the light source effectively in by just bringing that back like that. Maybe a little bit bigger and not quite so bright. There we go. So I'm just going to zoom out, and we're just going to come out of there for a minute and just sit and think, well, is that okay? Does that work? I think it does. It works quite well. We need that little bit of light down here again. So we're going to go in, create another mask, radial gradient. We're just going to pull one down here. As that light's coming out that window, just tint it slightly. There we go. And then bring up the exposure and add a little bit of contrast and that little bit of clarity, as we like to do. And then I'm just going to subtract a brush, flows at 100, feathers at sort of 60, something like that. Nice big brush, and just create that shadow. There we go. So we're looking pretty good. I think we're going to need to just put some light at these higher areas. I mean, when I'm having a mad hour, I must admit, I'd probably work my way through many more of these windows just to bring some character in. But to show you what it looks like by doing this, you're welcome to do more of the windows if you want to. But remember, as you get further away, they need to be less bright. So let's create another radial gradient. This time I'm going to pop one up on this building up here and light this building up. So I'm just going to come across here, something like that. And I'm just going to brighten them up. Let's bring them up a little bit brighter up there. I'm going to add a bit of color into that as well, some magenta, really bring the magenta in there just to as though there's light coming up from below here. That's probably just a bit too bright. I'm just going to add in some contrast as well. There we go. Might just back off the temp just slightly, and then I'm going to also subtract the sky. I don't want to like this area here, so there we go. Subtracted the sky. Going to duplicate this mask, flip it over to this side, click it, spin it round to get the same sort of direction here. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger. That works okay. Maybe add a little bit of clarity on this side. Yeah, that's nice. So I might even bring that down just a bit lower. And the same over this side here. I think I'll just bring that down. Just bring that down a little bit more. Make it a little bit bigger. I want to light this door and this door. So I'm going to create another radial gradient. I'm literally just going to pop this radial gradient on this doorway like so, and then we can brighten that up as well. There we go. Add a bit of color to it, not too much. Plenty of magenta, same thing. I'm just going to bring that down just a bit further there, just to, because it's already quite bright at the top. And I'm just going to subtract a brush from this lower area there, and then create another radial gradient for this door. There we go. Add a bit of exposure for that so it stands out a little bit. Perfect. And subtract a brush from the bottom half there. Too much. Command Z or Control Z to undo it. Subtract a brush. Make the brush a little bit smaller. There we go. And that's brought it alive a little bit more. I think I'm wondering whether just to take this one here and subtract a brush with a lower flow rate, higher feather, so these trees aren't overly bright. Same with this one. Could be that one there. Subtract a brush. Same thing. Just bring that down just a little bit so it's not overly bright. And I think we're getting somewhere. I probably would do a sky replacement as well, but I don't want to make this video too long. I think what we'll do is we'll go back to the main controls here, and then let's just find the happy place that this needs to be. So just going to brighten the whole thing up a little bit more. That looks okay. That lantern needs to come down a little bit, so I'm just going to go back to the lantern. Is that the one? That's that light. That's that light. It's number 4. There we go. And I'm just going to bring that back just a little bit so it's not too bright. There you go. That looks a lot better. So you can actually see the definition of the lamp inside. I think I'm going to create one more linear gradient to come down from the top. Just darken that all down just a little bit more. Maybe add a little bit of blue up there. And I think what we'll do is we will go down to effects, and we'll put a post-crop vignette in, quite a chunky one, I'd say around about 30. But what you always need to remember to do when you do that is go to the feather slider and 100% slide that out. So still a bit thick there. I'm going to take that back to maybe 20. Yeah. And I'm just going to go back up to the basic controls, and I'm just going to brighten this scene up even more. Here we go. I'm going to add contrast to it, not too much. And a bit too much on the contrast, I think. Probably about 6 or 7. Maybe back the clarity off just slightly. Do you see how the effect is? Everybody always adds clarity, right? So you put more clarity in, and it really, gives it a very strong feel. But sometimes it's worth going like minus clarity. It brings almost an alt style glow to the image. So I'm actually going to go minus 18 there with that. And you know what? I think I'm going to stop there. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's give it full screen. that's a day tonight. I really wanted to show you the removal tool. As I say, I would normally do quite a bit more to these images, including the sky replacement, if I've got a boring sky like that. But I hope you did enjoy that, and please have a play with that removal tool. It's fascinating what it can do. The power of AI, incredible. So if you like the video, then please click like. Always welcome comments and questions and points. You know, I quite often learn something from you guys. You tell me things I didn't know, and it's all important that we share that knowledge together and try to learn together. So you know, and if you love what I'm doing here on YouTube, really would love you to subscribe and join me on my journey. I'm having great fun, I can tell you. So that's it for now. So I will say bye bye.